Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bridging the Gap. Make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe. My name is Alvin. I lean right on most issues, and I'll be representing the Republican side.
My name is Luke. I lean left on most issues, and I'll be representing the Democratic side. Hey guys, so in this video, we are going to be doing a review of the 2024 presidential election, but this time based on the betting markets.
Yep. So there are a few betting markets for major betting markets for politics. Now, we used to base off all our betting market content off the site Predict It, but a while back they did a little oopsie, and there's a lot of legal issues with their site, and so their markets have mainly winded down to only the basics. Now, the clear alternative to that right now is Polymarket, which has a lot more markets and a lot more, niche areas, including politics. And you can bet on a lot more here. So, for example, you can bet on every single state who will win each state, Trump or Harris, or someone else maybe. And in addition to the overall race. For example, in Predict It, there was only the national race in a few states. So we're going to go with Polymarket now. So this is just the explanation for those who are wondering why we shifted to Polymarket. Polymarket is a lot more bearish on Harris's chances compared to Predict It, where Harris is leading by a decent margin. On Polymarket, however, they are basically tied here, 49-48 on Harris. We're going to be filling out the map based off of the odds that each candidate will win each state. If a candidate is favored by less than 60% in the betting markets, we'll be putting that as tilt. If they're between 60 and 74%, they'll be as lean. 75 to 89 will be likely, and 90 and up will put us safe. So why don't you take it away with the safe states that we just haven't marked yet?
Yeah, so one I found really interesting is Minnesota, and we talked about this before the video. Um, right now, Polymarket has this at 94% at a 94% shot of going to Kamala Harris. And I do feel this is slightly overvalued because, of course, Minnesota is not like is a state that typically does vote Democrat, but not by too much. I do feel that people are more bullish on this particular market though because Harris has selected Tim Walz as her running mate, who's the governor of Minnesota. So I guess in that for this state, at least, they are more confident that it'll go to the Democrats. So yeah, for this video, the Minnesota's solid.
Yeah, it is. And I agree with you that I think it's overvalued. Tim Walz did not really do extraordinarily well in 2022. Um, it's not like he's really an extremely popular governor, like for example, Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, her other possible pick. And while he is from Minnesota, I think that 94 cents is too much. Let's move on though, because really, we're not here to dwell on the state of Minnesota. Um, I think that might be all for the safes that we haven't marked.
What about
Ohio, Iowa,
uh,
I guess. Oh, Iowa's
we
already
have
marked.
Iowa, and then
Yeah,
maybe
Ohio,
just look through them like
Ohio's actually,
Ohio.
yeah, Ohio's actually not safe. So I actually didn't realize this, but we're just gonna put
Yeah.
that into likely right now. It's actually under 90 cents. And I think the others are fine. Maine is unlikely. New Hampshire is going to be unlikely. Virginia is going to be unlikely. So let's just fill those out. Maine at large. We have New Hampshire and Virginia. And I guess safe New Mexico is going to happen
Yes.
for the Democrats. And not, it's sort of difficult to look at everything. But yeah, safe New Mexico here. New Mexico has always been a state that I guess technically a Republican would have a non-zero chance of winning, but it's just not going to get there. There's going to be a lot more Hispanic shifts that need to happen for New Mexico to really get there. Um, and I think that's going to be it. Checking Florida, yeah, Texas, yeah, these are going to be
hmm
unlikely. So yeah, want to touch on a few of these? I'll get the rest.
Yeah, I believe that is most of the likelies you have there. I think the only other two are potentially Maine's second district and Nebraska's second. Uh,
Yes, they
Yes,
are
I believe
both
so.
into likely.
Yeah, so they're like these are all states that um people betting on these markets believe that there's some very outside chance that the opposite party can win, but overall, the party that we have marked down for them right now is the overwhelming favorite in those areas. So yeah, it makes perfect sense for a state like Virginia, which voted for Biden by 10 points, New Hampshire, which voted for Biden by 7, and Maine, which voted for Biden by 9, those to all be in the Democratic column, and states like Texas, which voted for Trump by 6 in 2020, and Florida, which voted for Trump by 3 and is trending to the right. Like it makes perfect sense why people would see these in the way they do.
Exactly, yeah. So, like you said, these states have a very small chance of the opposite party winning. I think something very interesting to note, though, is that they have Texas at a higher chance of Trump winning than Florida, which you have disagreed with for a while, and I have agreed with for a while. So, I guess the people with money are agreeing with me on that. And yeah, I agree with all these other states too. New Hampshire, Maine at large, and Virginia. Technically, there's a chance Trump could win, but it would have to sort of fall apart for Harris at an extent that it would have to be even worse than what Biden happened. So she'd have to fail in three debates, not just one or something. I don't know. Let's move
Yep.
on to the lean states, and there actually are not that many because we put our mark for the lean states at 60 cents. And originally I was thinking we should put this in 55 cents, but since we settled on 60 cents, I think it's only going to be Michigan
Yeah.
here on lean. So yeah, Michigan has always been seen as the least competitive of the swing states, except for maybe North Carolina. Um, and it's always been seen as the most Democrat leaning of the major seven swing states or six major swing states, depending on how you look at it.
Hmm.
It was always going to be the last one to fall for the Democrats. Trump barely won the state in 2016, and Republicans have not had success in the state ever since. So it's probably going to stay in the Democrat column this cycle. Although
Yeah.
Trump has a very solid chance of winning it, she's just not favored.
Yeah, I do find it interesting that normally when we do these predictions, we talk about like these six major swing states. And when we say that, excuse me, when we say that, usually we discount North Carolina as being as leaning more toward Donald Trump. Um, but I guess, yeah, according to these markets at least, Michigan is the closest of those states. So I don't know. I guess in the eyes of the market, there's now seven major swing states on the ballot, with North Carolina kind of falling into that territory since Harris has come into the race. So yeah, I guess we'll just this is just how the people betting on it see it. But yeah,
Exactly. So really, it's not up to us, it's up to the market. And yeah, I think it's a reasonable way to look at it. We had recent polling that showed, North Carolina coming back into the fray, although I don't really buy it too much. I mean, I'm really just gonna have to see it in November to get convinced because of how North Carolina's voted. Um, but yeah, I mean, Michigan being the farthest to either side is not impossible right now. Definitely plausible. Let's move on to now the state of North Carolina, which is going to be in tilt Republican based off of our demarcations. And it's the farthest away from the center of the remaining states, as we've been saying for a while that North Carolina would be, but now it is outpaced by Michigan with the recent polling. It has recently shifted, like the past 2 days shifted
yeah,
to the left off of that New York Times Siena poll mainly, although there has been other weaker polling that's shown it moving to the left. North Carolina, obviously there's going to be multiple races there, and the governor's race we just put a few days ago in our predictions into the Democrat column, but
yep.
it's probably still voting for Trump this cycle.
Yeah, and that's why it's like the next most likely to fall to either candidate. I believe, yeah, like in the betting markets, it gave Trump a 59% odds of winning the state. The next two closest, I believe it's a tie, according to the betting markets, are Wisconsin and Georgia, with Wisconsin having Harris favored at 58% and Georgia having Trump favored at 58%. Um, so yeah, I mean it's interesting that they're kind of in the same tier of likeliness, going for either candidate there. Uh, yeah, I did find this a little interesting. Obviously, like in the 2020 election, Wisconsin was slightly bluer than Georgia, but looking at Kamala Harris and the groups she appeals to, you'd think she'd have less appeal in the Rust Belt and more appeal in areas with more African Americans and young voters. Like those are the areas we've seen that have had the most improvement since she's gotten in the race. But at least with the betting markets here, it does suggest that Harris still has somewhat of that buying strength with white voters in the Midwest. So, I mean, at least in this case, she is leading in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I think it's also funny because if you did look at Wisconsin in 2016, in 2016 and 2020, really, you'd see that Democrats were, you know, really favored to win the state according to all analysis, and Trump obviously won it once and barely lost it the other time. Now you look at Georgia in 2020, Trump was practically going to win it based off of all analysis. But guess what? Biden ended up taking the state by a very small margin. So they're sort of polar opposites. Now, I think actually both leading candidates in both states are a little overvalued here because I think the strength of Harris in turning out black voters in Georgia is undervalued by the polls. And I think Wisconsin polling is also probably
Sketchy. Yeah.
always sketchy. It's gonna favor Democrats, I think, in a Trump when Trump is in the race, so we're gonna see, but I think both leading candidates are favored here. I think Kamala, really has a coin flip in Georgia, and I think Trump also has a coin flip in Wisconsin. But let's move
hmm
on to Arizona and Nevada, which are the final states. We'll go to Nevada first. Actually, Pennsylvania. Yeah, actually, it's gonna be Pennsylvania. I did not expect that, but we'll go to Pennsylvania first, actually, because it is at 55 cents, edging out Nevada by 1 cent. Um, yeah, Pennsylvania, I thought would be closer than Nevada because honestly, I think Trump is doing very well in Nevada compared to the other swing states. He's held his ground there in a lot of the polling that's come out, compared to the other swing states.
Yeah.
And it was one of the states where the major metro in Clark County and Las Vegas in 2020 shifted to the right compared to a lot of states, which obviously shifted to the left, granting a Biden win. Now, this Pennsylvania characterization does put Harris at 270, which is very important.
Yeah, yeah. I do kind of understand this, why she would be favored in Pennsylvania. Like if you look at the polling and the indicators we have so far, like she's been doing pretty decent in Pennsylvania polling. I believe she was up 3 in the latest Quinnipiac poll, up 4 in the New York Times poll. So like she's doing pretty good in these Rust Belt states, at least according to polling. When similar polls found Biden doing very bad in these states. Before he dropped out.
Exactly. All right, now let's go to Nevada, which will have in tilt Republican. I mean, I've given my analysis on Nevada many, many times, but Trump does seem favored here based off of the shifts, even though Republicans have not won the state at the presidential level in a very long time. It's gone to the point where, there's a lot of demographics in Nevada that are shifting to the right. There's a lot of Hispanics in the state, right? It's near the southern
Yeah.
border. It is a state with a lot of, white voters as well, and white working class voters, people that are in the service industry, not really that well educated. It's really good demographically for Trump's sort of vibe and Trump's shifts that he makes with the realignment.
And yep. So after that quality Nevada analysis, we come to our final state, which is the closest one on the betting markets,
Arizona.
with Trump favored by 51%. Yeah, the state of Arizona. Personally, I I think Harris is undervalued in the state of Arizona. I will say I I I happen to believe that as of right now, Harris is favored in the state of Arizona. Why do I say this? Is because there's been a lot of right-leaning pollsters polling the state, and all of them like I'm talking like Republican internal pollsters, like you look at Trafalgar, Rasmussen, the slew of pollsters polling for Kerry Lake. All of them find an incredibly close race with Trump only up one. And if you know these pollsters, especially Trafalgar and Rasmussen, they tend to consistently favor Republicans, even in years with when polls are biased to Democrats, as we saw in 2020. So that just kind of leads me to believe that Harris is up in the state. And yeah, also you could just look at more neutral pollsters or more credible ones like New York Times, and they have her up. So I don't know. I do think she's undervalued in the state as of right now. But yeah, at least going by the betting markets here, this is the closest state.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would put this as the closest state, but it is one of the closest states, obviously. I
Yeah.
agree with you that I think Harris is actually favored in Arizona. Maybe controversial opinion, but I think that's just the truth at this point in time. Really, if I was trying to beat the betting markets and the polls right now, I would probably bet on Trump in Wisconsin. I think Harris is overvalued there. I would bet on Harris in Arizona and Georgia. I think she's undervalued there. And I would bet for Trump in North Carolina. So, I mean, if you're really, this is not professional betting advice, so
I know. I mean,
don't sue me.
I'm not even
I've
gonna say
lost
anything because
money.
I'm not a betting man, but
I've lost money on political bets in the past, so really I'm not perfect. Don't take this, too seriously. But if I had a bet, I think that's just my analysis on who's undervalued where.
Yep.
Um,
Uh, but yeah, this is the map. This is what the betting markets are saying, and yeah, overall, like if you saw on the forecast on Polymarket, Harris is favored 49% to 48%, at least as of right now. So
Refreshing the page, still 49-48.
yeah, it's
Might have changed.
still incredibly close. I think we both see this election as being incredibly close. So this all adds up to some extent. But yeah, this is what bettors are saying.
Yeah, maybe you should tell, your fans to bet on Trump in Florida because you seem to really think that Trump is
Oh,
definitely winning Florida. Maybe you could say that much. But anyways, yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll come out with some new videos on the house at some point and some other predictions. Might be a while until our next video. We're moving back into college and some other stuff's happening in our lives. So that's about it for now. But yeah, thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Like this video down below, subscribe, ring the bell. Let us know in the comments what you would bet on any state or if you would bet for either candidates in the general, election betting markets and share this video with your friends and family. Thanks for watching.
see you guys.